I'll need help getting up.
I understand that.
Sandy and I came here with our 3 kids in 1976.
We first belonged to a Reform synagogue in Florida, and that worked for us. And we were looking for a similar experience here because it was an extraordinarily congenial and cohesive Jewish community. Rabbi Rubenstein was an amazing human being. We came in the 70s, but it was the tail end of the 60s where the community had been very involved because of the rabbi in civil rights. And this really was thrilling. Martin Luther King was here, and all sorts of civil rights activists were here, and it came with really hopeful feelings about what was going to come from our relationship with the synagogue.
It was a very progressive environment. Rabbi Rubenstein, for example, didn't want to air condition the synagogue because he thought it was wasteful and an inappropriate statement.
It was the time of the Arab, at the same time, the oil crisis. And what was really funny is I was on the board at that time, and as a board, listening to him talk about not air conditioning it because it was money for the Arabs and it was just not environmentally good. And as we left, I remember this one woman who was on the board with me, Joyce Silverman, and she commented, which one of these men would be working in an office today if it weren't air conditioned? And we started to laugh. And air conditioning didn't happen until we renovated the synagogue, which was some time later, which was always funny. And that was sort of the wonder of Rabbi Rubenstein. He was a quiet scholar that had very definite opinions, and it was very much molded by where he sat from a social action position.
Through the synagogue, we became involved with UJA. Sandy became president of the board, and I got dragged along, and I joined the UJA board, and that turned into being involved in the Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island consortium.
Temple Israel approved of taking on 2 students from Israel for the year, and because it became such a good program, other synagogues got involved. And housing was supplied. We had cars for the kids, and then it went to Stanford, it went to other communities in Connecticut in our consortium, and then it just grew. And it was clearly a model for the country. We've watched Temple Israel grow tremendously in its relationships with other community services and institutions, terrific interfaith meetings and involvement with the community, with the larger community, and which is still going on today. The rabbi's impact on the temple has been as good as we could have wanted. In other words, when you hire a rabbi based on a very short time to really spend with that person, you really don't know, because the role of the rabbi is so enormous that you have no idea of where it's going to take the community. I would say that the reason that I was comfortable when I was sitting on the search committee was because he was coming from a really good synagogue. And he was working with really good clergy.
I really like Michael. I like his energy. I like his intelligence. I like his style in, for want of a better word, preaching. He is thoughtful, and I think that's very important.
Our current rabbis are more of a mix that works for me in a Reform synagogue. I feel that the relationships between the 3 rabbis and the cantor, and now cantors, is a more inviting relationship than I could have ever imagined. They've made it their show, not just someone's show. It's their they are leading the community. There is very much that sense. Temple Israel gives me a sense of the possibility that of what I felt as a child, that there is a wonder and a joy in making connections with the community. I wouldn't have been able to say this as a child, but it's what I appreciated most in my growing up years that brought me back when I was in college and not involved. I think that over the years I've seen the joy of the celebration of Jewish activity and of being a participant in the activities of the synagogue. Our community has stepped forward at important times. Our involvement with neighboring communities who experienced sadness when mosques were threatened, and our participation there, our taking in refugees and helping relocate them. I think that gives younger people, whether they actively know this or not, a certain hope for the future. I think it gives them an ability to see, well, times can be terrible, but this is how we can help. It gives them purpose.
Our family has been the center of our life, and Temple has been a way of passing on values and Jewish identity to the kids, and that's what made it important for me. And we support the mission of educating future generations and sustaining the education of adults as they need it. I think we need to support this community of people who choose to identify with the Jewish community as a resource, and that's meaningful to me, whereas golf clubs or bridge clubs don't mean anything to me.
I fell in love with Israel in concept when I was 9, when I went to camp, Zionist camp, Sedgwin. There are a band of us out there who keep meeting each other, and I find them in funny places. And it happened because of a counselor named Aya. This was 1949, and Israel was a year old. And I just knew that Israel was the place that only in the eyes of a young child could it be so simple. And I came home, not that year, but about 2 years later, and said to my parents, you know, I'm going to make Aliyah to Israel. And they said, oh, okay. And we never discussed it again. Now, I then led my normal life in Brooklyn, New York, and married, and did not get to Israel till 1976, when I demanded of my husband, when we were moving from Florida to Connecticut, that I would not come and make a move until we at least spent time in Israel. Because I just didn't want to ever spend any more time waiting to go to Israel. And he said, well, if I'll go for a month, would that satisfy you? I said, sure.
It's called negotiating.
So we went for a month, and everything I could have ever imagined, I found in Israel. I loved the people, I loved the place, I loved the smells, I loved the fact that the coffee was terrible, that you couldn't get it close to your nose in 1976. And when we were there, Entebbe happened. July 4th, Entebbe happened, and Yonatan Netanyahu was the only fatality. But it was such a joyous time for Israel, and such a wonderful opportunity for the world to see a country at its best. and sitting in the King David Hotel when I couldn't, we were waiting to get served our food, and there were some, we think, politicians or bankers next to us because they were wearing suits. We were eating our lunch and our food wasn't coming. And this gentleman tapped me and said, "Entebbe we can do, but tomato juice, that's hard." And something in me just understood that I understood these people. This was so much everything I had thought it could be. And now, of course, I'm in great pain for what's going on, but that's a whole other discussion. The fact is that I cannot imagine a world without Israel. And it shocks me that it took an October 7th to wake people up to the magnitude of what Israel has given to the Jewish people of the world.